Hello, everyone. My name's Cracky. I'm writing this. It's been a few days since the last dev diary for Victoria 3, where we got a peek at the warfare mechanics. And, it took me a few readings of the blog and the dev posts to really figure out what was going on. And I kind of came up with all these weird ideas that, we should be able to direct our troops more specifically. They should. So let's imagine this scenario. We have this area, which I'm showing on screen right now. And there's two war goals. And we have two generals. Let's call them Klaus and Fritz. Just whatever, some names. And we'll ignore any other possible generals for now. Just two attacking generals. We set them both to attack. They muster their troops. It goes through the whole thingamabob. And after some time, Klaus starts an attack in the north towards one war goal. And Fritz starts an attack in the south towards another. And that's all good and well. Cool. And, okay, so it goes on. The battles come to the conclusion. Let's assume they're both successful and they capture some area. And that changes the front line. And now, since they're both on attack, they start planning another battle. But what if this time, Klaus does an attack in the south and Fritz in the north? They swap positions now. And, okay, so obviously this is kind of janky. But I think this goes beyond jank and is actually a problem for gameplay. First, I want to state that I'm talking about the general switching. I saw the post in the dev diary, the follow-up, that there's a way to smooth out troops moving around and teleporting, but I'm specifically talking about the general's tag switching. And I also understand this actually might be an optimal thing to do, switching here. It might be like, Klaus's frontline advance to a forest and Fritz has a bonus fighting a forest, and switching would be optimal. But even if it is optimal, I think this is a bad thing to happen. And here's why. 3 reasons. First of all, it's janky. It's weird. This kind of jank appears in Paradox games all the time, in Crusader Kings or whatever. You have interaction distances where I can be at somewhere, and then somewhere else characters are kind of a little ethereal, but it's still a bad thing, right? It's a necessary sacrifice of gameplay sometimes, but not necessarily good. Secondly, let's get into a real reason. For the game to feel good, for the war to feel engaging, there gotta be some sort of consistent flow to the narrative of the war. And, imagine they didn't switch. Then you could say, oh, I had a war, and Klaus advanced in the north to his objective, and Fritz in the south, and that pretty much describes it, right? And, you got a kind of interesting war. 2 generals advancing on opposite flanks to get 2 targets. But if it's just the swapping, then it's, just some stuff happened here, some stuff happened there. You don't really get a story for the war. When you think about the American Civil War, it's Sherman's March to the Sea. It's not just a bunch of generals attacking Georgia. Okay, so that's, kind of narratives. So let's get on to the real beef of this video, where I said the system could actually have a gameplay improvement without activating any buttons. And that's the ability to command a general and switch orders. If you have this general staying in the same place, you can command orders on positions at the front too, right? And, as it's presented in the dev diary, maybe actually the system does do this already, but it didn't say so in the dev diary as far as I could see. If they stay in their position, or if they plan a new battle close to their previous battle, effectively, would be what it was, then I can, come and look and I can say, okay, Klaus has advanced too far and he should halt, and but I need Fritz to keep going. So I can set Klaus to defend and leave Fritz on attack, and that does what I want, what the player wants to do. But if, I set Klaus to defend and leave Fritz on attack, and then Klaus attacks where Fritz is, that's, it's not useful, right? That actually, the whole buttons thing with the attack and defend orders just doesn't work if that's the case. It's not doing what I as a player expect it to do. And so that's kind of what I feel this system should have. As I mentioned, it might already have this. It might be some biasing factor on how the generals pick their battles, or, maybe something that causes them to behave like this. But it's definitely something that should be in the game, as far as I'm concerned. This lets the player actually respond to developing situations, as opposed to just, put my good attacking generals on attack and bad attacking generals on defense, and, it's not very interactive. Whereas, if you can actually control the generals in a predictable way, you can interact with the war constantly, and also come back and not have to micro troops and work on the economy and go back to the war and, get an enjoyable game experience. So yeah, like the idea of generals floating in the aether of the front line, that's fine and all from like a how the game technically works way, but it'd be really good if the game kind of builds this narrative of the generals actually being in a place, and by having them tend to attack or defend too near their previous battle, it kind of helps build this narrative and also gives the player a bit more control, and it's something I think should be in the game. So that's just my thoughts on this. Generally, the system seems great, and again, this thing might already be a thing, but if it's not, I think it should be. And thank you for watching your video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Cheers. Bye.